Welcome everyone to Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill Gross, and it is time for a preview of the 2023 Paris Bercy Masters. The last 1,000 of the year. Can you believe it? I could cry. Couldn't you cry that it's the last Masters? On a more positive note, this is a double Monday Match Analysis day, and just want to plug that. Like if you're going through your feed and normally you only see one Monday Match Analysis and you're a little bit confused. Just so you know, obviously the Vienna and Basel, mostly Vienna, breakdown has also been posted today. So if you are interested in my thoughts on Jannik Sinner's second win over Daniil Medvedev in about a month's time and FAA's run in Basel, please do check that out. If you are new to the channel, the preview pertains many things. A quarter-by-quarter preview with a dark horse that is an unseeded player I think has the best chance to go deep. An upset alert who is a seeded player who I think is most likely to lose early. Early popcorn match, which is a first or second round match that I don't think you should miss. And quarterfinal predictions, which is exactly what it sounds like. Intro for Paris Bercy. There have been some wacky, wild, surprising results over the years at this particular Masters 1000 event. It is a very low bouncing hard court. It's not the fastest. I would say it's medium pace, obviously because it's indoors. It can still favor good serving and, excellent offensive players, but it's not lightning speed by any means. And I think the most unique aspect of the conditions is just how low the ball tends to stay. So when I think about who is suited to these courts and who is not, that's mostly what I am considering. It is also the return of Novak Djokovic, the return of Carlos Alcaraz. They are both in the draw. So with that, let us get into it, and let us begin with Novak Djokovic's quarter, who is the number one seed. Oh, by the way, this is a 56 draw with 56 players. Top 8 seeds get a bye. It's the Masters 1000 format that we all love. I think we all love it at least, and it's going extinct. So you get right into it. The early matches are intriguing right away. Even the seeded players get really usually pretty difficult matches right away, and the first round can get a little bit crazy in this format compared to the other format, which is more like a major. Like you'll get some upsets, but there's also a lot of comfortable matches for the top players. So yeah, I did want to throw that out there as well. I'm excited. I like this format better than the other one, honestly. Okay, top seeds, as you can see, only 4 in this 56 draw. Djokovic, Rune, Fritz, and Shelton. There are 16 seeds, to be exact. So 4 in each quarter. Djokovic, Rune, Fritz, and Shelton. My dark horse is Arthur Fils. Fils, 2 indoor hard court tournaments in France this year. 2 semifinals. Talking about Montpellier, talking about Marseille. That was back in February. That was early in the year. Fils is even better now. He took it a step further. He made the final in Antwerp. So you look at Arthur Fis's resume, who I'm very high on. He's a great prospect. Hits the ball extremely hard. Moves extremely well. Serves pretty big. He's played 4 indoor hard court tournaments, tour level this season, and he has been semifinal or better in 3 out of the 4. And obviously, it's easy to excuse the loss last week in the first round because he was coming off of a final. He's got Daniil Altmaier first. That is a pretty good draw in this format. And then he has the winner of Fritz or Baez. So Fils is my dark horse. Upset alert is Taylor Fritz. I think he might be struggling with the pressure of the race. He's an offensive player with low confidence. You don't love to see that. He's better on higher bouncing hard courts. And Sebastian Baez in the first round, he's starting to figure out how to play on hard court. The results ever since, he had that run in Winston-Salem, the results are a lot better on hard courts, which you knew that would kind of turn around. He wasn't just going to never win on hard courts after the brutal start to his career. yeah, he started to turn that around, so it's not a cakewalk first round. Popcorn is Thiem versus Wawrinka. It's been a while since we've seen these guys face off. Wawrinka leads the head-to-head. He's on a 3-match winning streak. Thiem has come through qualifying. Good wins. He beat Lorenzo Sonego. He beat Christopher O'Connell in qualies. Also, low-key, his best tennis last year was on indoor hardcourt. It's obviously, when you think of the normal Dominic Thiem, you're not really thinking, oh, like he's an indoor hardcourt guy. No, but if you actually look at how last year played out, that is what happened. And he played pretty well against Tsitsipas recently as well. Wawrinka, he's lost some momentum since the U.S. Open, but he's at his best in first rounds. So I'm actually pretty intrigued to see which way this one goes. I kind of have a feeling about Thiem here, that he's going to take this, and obviously you have two of the best one-handed backhands in the world right now facing off against each other. So that's always fun. I'm looking forward to that one. All right, quarterfinal prediction here is Novak Djokovic defeating Arthur Fils. It's not always that I have my dark horse actually, capitalizing and getting to the quarters, but in this case, I have quite a bit of confidence in Fils. I think he's in a good part of the draw. Two interesting rematches could loom for Djokovic. Shelton in the round of 16, that would be a U.S. Open rematch, and Rune in the quarterfinal potentially. That would be a rematch of last year's Paris final. Rune, he looked healthy, sort of rejuvenated in Basel, but the physical collapse in the semifinal, to me, was really concerning and somewhat inexplicable. It's an indoor tournament. The matches that he was playing had not been that physical, and for some reason, it just seemed like he was toast in that semifinal. Similar to Roland Garros, where he came out for his quarterfinal match, and he was just done in the legs, and I guess it was a little bit easier to understand there because of best of 5. And he did have some longer matches, but similar situation here. So Rune physically, there are still question marks there. And even without the physical stuff, there's still a huge range of levels and outcomes that Rune is bringing to the court. Now, I mean, he does have Boris Becker in his corner now, who I think was a really good presence, actually, in Basel. Just watching him coach, I thought he was doing good things. But there's still a lot of uncertainty for me when it comes to Holger Rune and just what level he's going to play. I actually trust Fils more, so I have Fils moving through that part of the draw. And then, in terms of Shelton, I was actually planning on giving Shelton an optimistic prediction. I like his serving. I like his energy at an indoor event towards the end of the year. And, frankly, you could expect if he plays Djokovic that Shelton is going to play better than he did at the U.S. Open, and Djokovic is probably going to play worse than he did at the U.S. Open. So I don't think that's like a total gimme for Djokovic. I felt that way, come the U.S. Open semifinal when I was predicting that match. I did not hesitate picking Djokovic in straights. This one I think could get more interesting, but ultimately, I don't think Ben Shelton annoying Djokovic at the U.S. Open is going to help his chances here, and I'm going to give the nod to Novak, especially with the return of serve prowess against a guy in Shelton who does rely quite a bit on getting great purchase out of the serve, and Djokovic over Fils, to me, is also not all that difficult and doesn't require much argumentation. Let's go to Jannik Sinner's quarter. Top seeds are Sinner, Rublev, Paul, and De Minaur. My dark horse here is Adrian Mannarino. Mannarino is having an awesome year, the best of his career at 35 years old. 2 titles, he's never done that before. He's also at a career-high wins. For some reason, he's never done well in Paris, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. He's great in low bouncing conditions. He's great on indoor hard courts. He's obviously French. Now, maybe that's why he doesn't do well. I mean, who knows? Some players actually don't like to play in their home countries where there's more pressure on them and more distractions. But I look at Mannarino and I just shrug my shoulders. Hey, it's a year of firsts. So maybe he can break through at these Paris Masters for the first time. He does potentially have Andrei Rublev in the third round, who he's had a really rough go against him the last 2 times they've played. But other than that, the draw is pretty nice. Botic van de Zandschulp, first round. Botic starting to actually win some matches, but still nothing crazy out of him. Then the winner of Tommy Paul and Richard Gasquet in the second round. So very winnable. He'll hope that my upset alert comes true. Upset alert is Andrei Rublev for me here. But if I'm being honest, I don't think there's a really great choice for upset alert in this quarter. Jannik Sinner is something like 18-1 in first round matches on the season. His only loss was to Lajovic, and that was like immediately after he won the title in Toronto. So you could say like, hey, Gill, like maybe that'll happen again and he'll lose for the second time this year after winning a title. Sure, I mean, that's a decent argument for Sinner, but it's not great against either J.J. Wolf or Mackie McDonald. De Minaur plays Murray. That's a 5-0 head-to-head for Demon. And Tommy Paul plays Richard Gasquet, and Gasquet hasn't done all that much winning recently. So I go with Rublev because Jordan Thompson, who's the lucky loser, is good in low-bouncing conditions, good on indoor hard court, and is having a good season. Yoshihito Nishioka has been slumping, but also when he's actually really engaged and playing his best, Nishioka can actually be super bothersome, and he came through qualifying, so he has wins under his belt. And then Andrei Rublev is 2-5 in Paris for his career. He is just horrible in Paris. It doesn't make much sense. It's really the only Masters 1000, I think, for Rublev that you look at his results and they're just randomly horrible. So all of those things combined for landing on Andrei Rublev. But would I be a little bit surprised, just given how consistent he's been recently? Would I be a little bit surprised if Rublev lost? Yes, I would. Early popcorn is De Minaur versus Murray. The Andy Murray fans must hate me right now for making this selection, because for them it is not an early popcorn. They did not want this to happen. Not only is Demon 5-0 versus Muzz, he's 3-0 this year versus Andy Murray, and now they're going to play for a fourth time. But I especially made it my popcorn, not because I'm like super thrilled at the prospect of watching this again, but also because there are big implications. You know, Andy Murray is trying to be seeded come the Australian Open. He's 40 in the world right now, so I don't know what his points to defend looks like here. I actually know he lost first round last year. Now that's coming back to me. So he doesn't have any points to defend. Winning some matches here would go a long way towards trying to get seeded. And then Demon is in a situation where if he wins Paris, he can make Turin. If he doesn't win, I don't think he can. But De Minaur's had a big year. So I don't know. I guess crazier things have happened, although that would be pretty insane. Still, there are big implications there. All right. Quarterfinal here is Jannik Sinner defeats Andrei Rublev. I don't actually think that Sinner is going to get upset by McDonald or Wolf, although I will admit that first match might be his most dangerous. It honestly could. Maybe not more dangerous than the quarterfinal if he plays an Andrei Rublev, who pushed him really, really hard last week. But it is a tough spot coming off of a title. And even in general, just in Masters 1000s, coming off the bye when the other players are used to the conditions and have a win under their belt. And, you know, Sinner just has played a lot of tennis. That said, if he gets through it, his round of 16 seed is Alex de Minaur. Sinner is 5-0 against De Minaur, just like De Minaur is 5-0 against Murray. His quarterfinal seed is Andrei Rublev. I have the seeds holding here. He's 4-0 against Rublev. Sinner is in completed matches. Now, Rublev was right there in Vienna, and I feel like if Andrei could hit his second serve 5% better and Sinner drops off a bit, Rublev could get his first win over Sinner, again in a completed match. Jannik has had to retire against Andrei twice. But again, the concern here for Rublev is that he just doesn't like these Paris conditions for some reason. Got to go with Sinner. Got to go with Sinner. If he can keep up the level, he gets the bye. Maybe he can play some quick matches. Who knows? Let's go on to Daniil Medvedev's quarter. Top seeds here are Medvedev, Rune, Hurkacz, and Tiafoe. This is probably my favorite quarter in terms of just entertainment and being intrigued by particularly the early matches. I have two dark horses here. They are Grigor Dimitrov and Seb Korda. Dimitrov has passed the second round in Paris 9 years in a row. Best result, semifinal. I think that was in 2017, but I didn't write down which year it actually is. Hold on, quick check of that. Quick check of that. Oh, never mind. I can't check quickly because he's not seated, so he's not on my table. Okay, onwards. He pushed Medvedev last week to 6-4 in the third set. And now it's looking like, the way the draw's shaking out, that he's going to get another crack at Medvedev. In my opinion, better conditions for him to beat Medvedev just because it's slower. And a more worn down Medvedev, who's coming off of the physical final, just like Jannik Sinner. And I really love how he's playing, and I've said that a lot. And I like that now, he's beaten. I've seen him beat Alcaraz. For a while, it was a situation with Dimitrov where it's like, how am I going to have faith in Dimitrov pulling off a big win against a top player when all year long he just hasn't done it? Now that he's got that win over Alcaraz, at least I've seen it. It helps me believe that maybe Dimitrov can get that win over Daniil Medvedev in the second round. And in his first round, by the way, this is kind of funny. It's a rematch with Lorenzo Musetti, who's not been playing well, who Dimitrov also beat first round last week in Vienna. So essentially, Dimitrov got the same draw 2 weeks in a row. My other dark horse is Sebastian Korda. Look, with Korda, you never know if he's going to play terrible, but he is in the much softer half of this quarter. So the bottom half of this quarter, the bottom eighth, is really strong, which I'll talk about more. The top half is much more doable. And if Korda gets rolling indoors, he has the ball striking in the offense to make a run and reach that top 10 level. We've seen flashes from Korda beginning of the year and then more recently after the U.S. Open. So I just think that things could be shaking out for Korda here to be getting some momentum. And when he gets momentum in conditions that suit him, he's really, really dangerous. I like a low bouncing court with Korda as well. I guess there's benefits to the high bouncing court as well, but I like his flat ball and the way it kind of rips through the court. Should be able to get a nice skid through these Paris courts. Upset alert, Frances Tiafoe is my first upset alert. I do have two. Tiafoe looked re-energized at times in Vienna, in fairness, but I think Bublik is a really tough matchup. Bublik could have been a dark horse, obviously. I considered him for dark horse. But against Tiafoe in particular, I think Sasha can serve Foe off the court, and I think the unpredictable stop-and-start nature of Bublik is not ideal for a player in Tiafoe who likes things on his own terms. It's not that he likes to play a lot of long points and likes to get rhythm, but I just think he likes to be in control of things. And I just don't know mentally how he's going to handle the whole Sasha Bublik experience, because it is a real challenge to play Bublik in that aspect of the game. And Francis, I think since the U.S. Open, there have been times where it's looked like he's had trouble engaging fully. Hurkacz is also on upset alert. I know that seems weird. Hurkacz has been playing great ball. There's no doubt about that. His forehand has looked a lot better. He's serving great. But the Basel final that we just saw was pretty concerning. I just think he may have picked up an injury. And the roles are reversed from Shanghai. In Shanghai, these guys played in the semifinal where Korda was kind of battered. He doesn't have the best durability. And he was coming off of a 3-hour match with Ben Shelton. And Korda beat him in pretty decisive straight sets. Now the roles are reversed. You have Hurkacz coming off of a title run. Korda, I think, just lost first round. So he's rested. And I just think that, along with my concerns about Hurkacz, that could be a reversal there in favor of Korda. This, if it happens, it would obviously be really big for the race. It would put Holger Rune in great position to get that number 8 spot. Early popcorn is Tiafoe versus Bublik first round. I talked a little bit about it just now. It's got such a weirdness factor to me. It's got a mystery factor where, like, I close my eyes and I can't even really picture what the points are going to look like. I think it's going to be funky. And it's just one of those where my curiosity is piqued in terms of like what's going to happen in that match. So that's why it's my early popcorn match. By the way, there are other players, right, who are unseeded who I kind of want to give a shout because that's how stacked this quarter is. So you have, am I looking in the right place? Okay, here we go. You have Korda unseeded. You have Dimitrov unseeded. You have Bublik unseeded. You have Nicolas Jarry unseeded. So I guess Jarry's the other guy. You have Monfils unseeded. You have Lehechka, who I feel like is sneaky if he's playing well. You have Popyrin, who's had flashes. So it's a really, really stacked quarter. I think there's going to be a lot of entertainment value. My prediction for the quarterfinal is Sebastian Korda defeats Daniil Medvedev. The situation I find myself in here is I think the bottom half is a total bloodbath, and I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I'm pretty 50-50 on Dimitrov Medvedev. And I think if Dimitrov beats Medvedev, Grigor might lose to one of these servers like Bublik or Jarry. But if Medvedev wins, I think he easily gets to the quarterfinal because I think he matches up great with Bublik and Jarry. So therefore, I don't know. It's tough for me to read this top half. So I'm going with Korda. Tough for me to read this bottom half. So I'm going with Korda on the top half, who Medvedev hates playing anyway because Seb knows how to win that backhand pattern. And I guess the guy I haven't, mentioned is Ruud. These conditions are horrendous for Ruud because his forehand, the ball stays low on his forehand. His forehand doesn't jump up off the court from his heavy topspin. I would like Korda against Ruud, and I like Korda against Hurkacz. So I don't know what's going to happen in that bottom half. All things point to me putting through Korda in a bit of a surprise pick out of that quarter. Carlos Alcaraz's quarter. He is the number 2 seed. Welcome back, Alcaraz, from a short injury break. I guess he only missed one tournament, Basel. Top seeds here are Alcaraz, Tsitsipas, Zverev, and Khachanov. A lot of, I guess this is kind of a pretty interesting quarter in terms of the seeds, especially with those top 3 guys. My dark horse here is Hugo Humbert. This isn't a creative pick. This is a predictable pick, but Humbert has won 3 matches at each of his last 3 events, and he's 1 loss under 500 against top 10 players. So how could he not be the dark horse? I just think if he's not the dark horse, that's just getting too cute. It's wrong to not make him the dark horse. There are some other names, though, that were intriguing here. Roman Safulin qualified, and that might be a very uncomfortable player for Alcaraz to start against with his ruthless, early and aggressive ball striking off the ground. Fucsovics also qualified impressively. Straight set wins for him. And he's Mr. Dark Horse in best of 5, but this is best of 3, so I passed on Fucsovics. Upset alert is Tsitsipas, and I feel kind of bad about this because I know I've made him upset alert a lot. I'm pretty sure pretty much been right every time, but still, he's playing some pretty good tennis indoors right now. Coming into the event, I wasn't like dead set on making Tsitsipas upset alert, but he's still someone who off clay, I have to put on upset alert right now in this form when he plays elite serves. And he gets the winner of FAA and Struff in his first match likely, and those are both elite serves. It is also my popcorn. Who wouldn't want to watch FAA versus Tsitsipas? And it might be Struff. I didn't mean to not put, I should have put a / Struff because it might be Struff. But if it's FAA, there's a lot of intrigue there. Obviously, you just want to see, can FAA build off of Basel? I mentioned the funkiness on Monday Match Analysis. I mentioned the funkiness of his semifinal and his final, where it felt like his opponents just didn't show up. Well, I want a measuring stick for Felix, and Tsitsipas is a matchup that's doable for Felix. So if FAA is right, he should be able to beat Tsitsipas, or at least play him very, very close. And on the other side of things, for Tsitsipas, he's due for a run at a big event. I guess it's been a while. I guess it's been since Wimbledon. He did look pretty good at Wimbledon, I guess. But there's a lot of intrigue there. What can I say? Quarterfinal prediction in this quarter is Alexander Zverev defeats Carlos Alcaraz. Let's start with Alcaraz. Carlitos is too good to go his entire career without having any results on post-US Open indoor hardcourt. But he is in that prove-it phase for me. He has never done really much of anything this time of year, and Paris in particular has been a total horror show for Alcaraz. He blew a 5-1, 40-15 second set lead to Hugo Gaston 2 years ago. It is literally one of the biggest jokes I've ever seen. I mean, at this point, it's just kind of a funny footnote because obviously Alcaraz at that point was literally just starting. He was, again, in his complete infancy, but still, it happened. And then last year, he injured himself in his match against Holger Rune. So, yeah, there's not good voodoo here in Paris. As far as the health stuff, I'm not concerned about the injury at all. Long term, it's especially for ATP finals, I think he's going to be totally fine. But I can say I am a little concerned that maybe he's taken some time off court to recover and start to feel 100% again. And, it's totally plausible that he could be lacking in some training. So, while there are a lot of examples of Alcaraz taking a week off and then coming back and winning titles. In fact, both times when I say week off, I mean like an injury withdrawal. You look at Indian Wells, you look at Barcelona. I think he's literally 2 for 2 in winning titles after withdrawing with these little kind of injuries where I think he's kind of more resting. But still, I mean, it's not what you necessarily want to see. And I think post-US Open, it kind of looked like Alcaraz was post-Wimbledon, Alcaraz got in kind of a phase when he was coming off the long layoff where it just felt like he was undertrained a little bit, and the timing and the control wasn't there, especially on his forehand. And I don't know, I just wouldn't be stunned to see that again this week. As for Zverev, there's one thing that concerns me, obviously, about Zverev, which is that sometimes he comes out and he gets completely destroyed by Jordan Thompson in the first round. And I don't know why that's happened so often this year. If you look at a lot of Zverev's losses, they have been in straight sets. They have been completely lopsided. And that's been a strange pattern. But when he's been right and when he's been competitive in matches, I think recently he, in my opinion, is playing at the level of the 5th or 6th best player in the world. I think you got to be fair to Rublev. You can't just say decisively 5th, but especially because Rublev just beat him. But I think you got to say he's been like the 5th or 6th best player in the world. So I'm high on his level. I even liked his level when he lost to Andre Rublev. I thought that was a really high quality match. And in terms of his draw, it's been back and forth with Tsitsipas recently. It's a head-to-head that he has done much better with recently. And these are good conditions for Zverev to play Tsitsipas on. And indoors, I just think he has a chance to outserve and outsolid Alcaraz. So this feels like a Zverev spot for me. And with that, let's get to the final weekend. I will reveal it in 3, 2, 1. Jannik Sinner defeats Novak Djokovic in 3 sets Alexander Zverev defeats Sebastian Korda in 2 sets. And in the final, Zverev defeats Sinner in 3 sets. Let's go through this. I'll start with Djokovic. Look, last year, I was pretty certain that Djokovic was going to be a world destroyer all fall. He had something to prove to himself and to the locker room after missing the hardcourt summer, and he was playing a lot of little events to get ready for events to kind of warm up and build up, I should say, to events like Paris and the year-end championships. This year, it's been a different story. He's taken time off, and I just don't know that that same fire is going to be there. It's been a long, successful year for Novak, and he's coming off of a very long break, and I'm just not fully expecting him to be at his best. As for Sinner, the only question is, when does he hit that physical wall? It'll probably happen at some point before he crosses that 2023 finish line, but you just don't know when it's going to be. And the way Sinner is moving and serving and striking the ball and even volleying is crazy good. And it helps physically that this is all indoors. He'll need some quick matches, but to me, if Sinner gets to the semis and he's saved his body at least a little bit, and he's able to come into the Novak match with legs, I make him the favorite in that. As for the other semifinal, Korda is my least confident semis pick, and Zverev would be a tough matchup for him anyways. I'm going to leave it at that. In the final, who I picked to win, there are enough question marks for me about Sinner's fatigue levels that, at a certain point, it's like, when does it end, right? You have him beating Djokovic in the semis. When does that wall come? Again, that's the question. Might it be in a final? It could be. Yeah, after playing Djokovic, yeah, it could be. Now, Zverev presents similar challenges as Djokovic and Medvedev do to Sinner. He's that same mold of player. And even though Jannik is learning how to beat that kind of player, that's been very evident, it still takes a lot of work rate. It's still harder to beat those kind of great defenders. So I could just see it being a little bit too much for Sinner to go back-to-back here after such a big physical Vienna effort and to win Paris. The concern with Zverev is that he hasn't done well against top 10 players this year. But, there's no such thing for this tournament as a pick that I can't find issues with. Maybe that means that someone absolutely wild is going to win it. I think it, at the same time, I do think the top of the game right now is loving the indoor hard courts in general. So that is kind of brings me more towards thinking that it's not going to be all that crazy like we've seen Paris Bercy in years past. And something tells me that Zverev, who's just kind of built up all year, something tells me that he might sneak another big title here at the end of the year where, he still kind of has a lot to prove. He's made a final here. He's good in Paris. He's got a great record in Paris, I'll add. I think his record, this I am going to be able to check. His record is 10-5 in Paris. He made the final here in 2020. That is tied for third with Daniil Medvedev for most wins at the Rolex Paris Masters. Obviously, Djokovic is first, not even close, with 45 wins. Second place is 10. Medvedev and Zverev tied. So, yeah, I'm feeling Zverev this week. Not sure exactly what the content plan is going to look like, but there should be some post-match analysis here and there. There should be a mailbag. I am going to game 5 of the World Series on Wednesday, Diamondbacks Rangers. So that I have a little trip to Phoenix coming up, and I have to kind of plan around that. So hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.